İktidarın dezenformasyonla mücadele iddiasıyla gündeme getirdiği yeni sansür yasası teklifinin görüşmeleri yeni yasama dönemine kaldı. Ancak bu hafta alınan erişim engelleri kararları aslında iktidarın yeni bir sansür yasasına ihtiyaç duymadığını ve zaten elindeki sansür mekanizmalarıyla neler yapabildiğini bir kez daha ortaya koydu. İşte bizim eleğimizden ifade özgürlüğünün bir haftalık hal ve gidişi.
Events organized within the scope of LGBTQI+ Pride Week were banned throughout Turkey. 373 people, including 30 children and journalists, were detained during the Istanbul Pride Parade. 12 detained in Izmir. 530 LGBTQI+ and LGBTQI+ rights defenders have been detained in Pride Month events since May 20. LGBTQI+s have been the target of hateful threats and were tortured throughout this period.
Asking the fate of their relatives disappeared in custody for years and demanding justice, the Saturday mothers gathered at the Galatasaray Square, which has been under police blockade for the 200th week in the 900th week of their protest. The Saturday mothers and 16 rights defenders, who came to the square with photos of their disappeared relatives and flowers in their hands, were detained.
A lawsuit was filed against journalist Uğur Dündar on charge of praising the crime and the criminal following the complaint of Ministry of Interior Süleyman Soylu. In the indictment, which was accepted by Istanbul Beykoz Criminal Court of First Instance, Dündar was charged due to a tweet he posted about criminal organization leader Sedat Peker, who made statements on many issues from drug trades to unsolved murders, from mafias to bribe-taking parliament members, as well as due to Dündar's evaluation of the matter on a television program.
A lawsuit was filed against Kıvebun Daily owner Kadri Esen on the allegation of making propaganda for a terrorist organization based on a photo he shared on his social media account on April 9, 2018. The first hearing of the case will be held on September 21st at the Diyarbakır 10th Assize Court.
Musician Veysi Beltekin, who sang in Kurdish at a wedding in Aydın's Efeler district, was detained on the charge of making propaganda for a terrorist organization.
Deutsche Welle and Voice of America news websites, which did not apply for a license to the Radio and Television Supreme Council, were blocked from access by the Ankara First Criminal Court of Peace. All pages of Germany's international media organization Deutsche Welle, broadcasting in 32 languages, and the Turkish website of Voice of America were censored. The news websites had declared that they would not apply against the license imposition, saying its purpose is to enforce censorship.
The Izmir 7th Criminal Court of Peace has imposed an access block on our news published in February about the threat messages to Etkin News Agency reporter Ertürk Yılmaz, who shared the news about suspended Assize Court Judge Hacım Çiftçi, along with the same decrees. News with the same content published on Gazete Duvar, İzgazete, and direnişteyiz.org were also censored.
Sözcü Daily columnist Çiğdem Toker's article on the Halkalı Ispartakule railway line tender, titled "They Secretly Repeated the Same Tender Twice the Size," was censored by the Istanbul Küçükçekmece First Criminal Court of Peace.
After the Freedom of Expression Association announced the access block against news articles regarding the allegation of President Erdogan's lawyer Ahmet Özel threatening a businessman, the related content on their website was also blocked with a decree issued by the Istanbul Anatolian 6th Criminal Court of Peace. In addition, the same judiciary also blocked access to news about the court verdict to summon President Erdogan's former lawyer Mustafa Doğan Ünal by force.
Upon the request of Boğaziçi University Rectorate, the Istanbul 10th Criminal Judicature of Peace blocked access to the news revealing that the director of Boğaziçi University Information Processing Center, who came to the fore when he gave a company access to 4 databases containing personal information of academic staff, administrative staff, students and alumni, was a suspect in a bribery operation in Izmir in 2014.
Istanbul Anatolian 8th Criminal Judicature of Peace also blocked access to the news on the access block imposed against the video and content regarding anecdotes on Justice and Development Party Parliament member Alpay Özalan at the time when he was a football player.
Konya Çumra Criminal Judicature of Peace blocked access to the news on Yıldız Technical University Faculty of Science and Literature member Professor Bedri Gencer, who commented after the 2020 Elazığ earthquake that the natural disasters were happening because adultery is lawful and that child marriages were prohibited.
The Adana 6th Criminal Judicature of Peace blocked access to many new articles about Keskin Holding Executive Board Chairman Recep Ercan Keskin, who was detained in the operation organized in 2017 on charges of fictitious export, fuel smuggling, and forgery of official documents.
The Radio and Television Supreme Council fined Halk TV and KRT TV upon the complaint of Interior Minister Süleyman Soylu. Halk TV was also sentenced a second fine based on the complaint of the Gendarmerie General Command for its news, titled Controversial Image in Van Başkale. The Radio and Television Supreme Council also fined Tele1 Channel for broadcasting on male violence against 6 women in Bahçeşehir, Istanbul. On the other hand, the Supreme Council imposed administrative sanctions on TGRT for a broadcast that did not comply with the broadcast ban issued by the Bakırköy First Criminal Judicature of Peace, and on Radio Sputnik on the grounds of broadcasting in a way that encourages the use of alcohol by specifying an alcoholic beverage type and brand.
Protection of Human Rights Defenders, FIDH, and its member organization, the Human Rights Association, published a report titled Stifling Procedure, Dooming It to Failure, Administrative Harassment of Civil Society in Turkey. The report highlights the crackdown on rights defenders and shows that the state bodies use administrative procedures and sanctions to stigmatize and silence human rights defenders and non-governmental organizations in retaliation for their activities in the field of human rights.
The Truth, Justice and Memory Center published a book titled Because We Care, 11 Civil Society Successes, which highlights the positive legacy left by the fight for human rights, which was prepared within the scope of the Supporting Human Rights Organizations and Defendants program. In the book written by journalist Gökçer Tahincioğlu, the stories of 11 struggles, including our initiative, are included with their testimonies. You may find the book on hakikatadalethafıza.org.
The 2022 edition of the Istanbul Protocol, which brings the new international standards in the fight against torture, was shared with the public at a meeting held at Geneva with the participation of United Nations High Commissioner of Human Rights Michelle Bachelet, as well as Human Rights Foundation of Turkey's Executive Board member and Turkish Medical Association President Şebnem Korur Fincancı. Prepared with the contribution of more than 180 experts in the fight against torture from 51 countries and strengthened with lessons learned from 20 years of practical experience. The new edition of Istanbul Protocol provides important guidance for the states to fulfill their treaty obligations to investigate, prosecute, and punish torture under the UN Convention Against Torture and international conventions.
Members of the Lawyers for Freedom Association, who went to the Yüksekova District Gendarmerie Command to see the villagers detained during the military operation launched in the rural area of Yüksekova District of Hakkari, were beaten and dragged on the ground by soldiers. Hakkari Bar Association requested an investigation and dismissal of the soldiers who battered lawyers at Yüksekova District Gendarmerie Command.
The first hearing of the lawsuit on 98 Haber Editor-in-Chief Gökhan Biçici being subjected to police violence as he was following the news during the Gezi resistance in 2013 was held. 5 police officers were prosecuted at the Istanbul 48 Criminal Court of First Instance. The prosecutor called the torture simple injury and requested that the case be abated on the grounds of time limitation. The next hearing will be held on September 13th.
Gelelim haftanın adliye mesailerine. İşte bu hafta takip ettiğimiz ifade özgürlüğü davalarından seçtiklerimiz.
Journalist Abdurrahman Gök, who photographed the moment of murder of Kemal Kutkut by the police during 2017 Newroz celebration in Diyarbakır, was acquitted of terrorist organization membership in the lawsuit, where he was tried on charges of armed terrorist organization membership and making propaganda for a terrorist organization. He was sentenced to 6 months and 22 days in prison. Diyarbakır 5th Assize Court did not defer the sentence.
The lawsuit filed against Human Rights Association co-chair Öztürk Türkdoğan at the Ankara 60th Criminal Court of First Instance on the charge of insulting a public official due to the written statement titled Mandatory Statement Regarding the Minister of Interior, Süleyman Soylu, that was published on the website of the Human Rights Association on June 29, 2018, concluded with acquittal.
Republican People's Party executive Banu Özdemir, who was tried on charge of public incitement to hatred and enmity for sharing the images of the song Ciao Bella being played from mosques in Izmir, was acquitted once again. Özdemir was previously arrested, tried and acquitted with the scope of the case and was being tried at the Izmir 50th Criminal Court of Fourth Instance after the appeal court decree to overturn the acquittal upon the objection of prosecutor's office.
The retrial of journalists Çağrı Sarı and Arif Koşar started at the Istanbul 2nd Criminal Court of First Instance with charges due to the news titled Police Opened Fire Against the Public in Nusaybin, 3 Injured, published in Evrensel Daily on March 15, 2016. The initial verdict on the journalists, who were sentenced to 5 months in prison for publicly insulting the military or security forces of the state in accordance with Article 301 of the Turkish Criminal Code due to the news in question, has previously been overturned by the Court of Cassation. The next hearing in the case was scheduled for November 15th.
The trial of former People's Democratic Party Parliamentary Group Deputy Chairman Çağlar Demirel, who said in a speech he made at a rally in Diyarbakır in 2016 in response to Erdogan's words targeting his party, "We return everything he said to him," has started at Diyarbakır 5th Criminal Court of First Instance. The arrest warrant for Demirel, who was accused of insulting the president, was lifted. The hearing was adjourned to December 20.
The first hearings of 2 separate lawsuits filed against 67-year-old Menci Orman and her daughter Şahide Orman Özek for allegedly carrying yellow, red and green shawls during Nowruz celebrations in Hatay were held at the Hatay 3rd Assize Court. Menci Orman was sentenced to 10 months in prison and the announcement of the verdict was deferred and the hearing of her daughter was adjourned.
Nazife Başkan was sentenced to 1 year, 6 months and 22 days in prison on charges of making propaganda for a terrorist organization for social media posts about murdered Sakine Cansız as well as Kader Kevser Ertürk, who was killed in a clash and destroyed tombs. The Istanbul 14th Assize Court did not defer the sentence.
The next hearing of the lawsuit filed against 14 Boğaziçi University students who protested the university's trustee rector Naci İnci will be held on November 14th at the Istanbul 22nd Criminal Court of First Instance.
The lawsuit filed against journalists İrfan Tunçelik and Ümit Turhan Coşkun, together with 11 members of Peace Mothers Initiative, on charges of violating the law on meetings and demonstrations and committing a crime on behalf of a terrorist organization due to protests held in front of Bakırköy Women's Closed Prison regarding the hunger strikes that started in prison in 2018 will continue on October 25 at the Istanbul 23rd Assize Court.
The next hearing of the lawsuit filed against 31 people, including Cihan News editor-in-chief Sonia Bayık, who was detained during the press statement that the People's Democratic Party Youth Assembly members wanted to make on June 12, 2019, demanding that the water containment of the Ilısu Dam, which flooded Hasan Cave, be stopped, will be held at the Batman 1st Criminal Court of First Instance on December 27th on the charge of violating the law on meetings and demonstrations.
The next hearing of the lawsuit filed against 103 retired admirals on the charge of consenting to commit crimes against the constitutional order due to the statement in which they drew attention to the importance of the Montreux Convention will be held at Ankara 20th Assize Court on September 19.
The next hearing of the lawsuit filed against 19 people, including journalist Zekine Türkeri, People's Democratic Party Istanbul Provincial co-chairs Elif Bulut and Erdal Avcı, who were detained, in the press statement issued by the People's Democratic Party on November 21st, 2021, will be held on December 13th at the Istanbul 49th Criminal Court of First Instance on the charge of violating the law on meetings and demonstrations number 2911.
The next hearing of the lawsuit filed against writer Gökhan Yavuzel on the charge of openly inciting the public to hatred and enmity due to his social media posts will be held at Ankara 7th Criminal Court of First Instance on December 1.
The lawsuit filed against journalist Ismail Saymaz, who was charged with seizing personal data due to his article regarding a persecutor raiding a hospital in Kayseri, will continue on October 4th at the NİDA 2nd Criminal Court of First Instance.
The Istanbul 13th Assize Court decided to lift the travel ban on writers in lawsuit filed against Mümtazer Türköne, Şahin Alpay, Ali Bulaç, and Ahmet Turan Alkan, whose verdicts in the Zaman Daily case were overturned by the Court of Cassation. The next hearing will be held on November 2.
The next hearing of the lawsuit filed against artist Ferhat Tunç on the charge of inciting the public to hatred and hostility due to a social media post criticizing the 2017 referendum will be held on October 26th at the Istanbul Büyükçekmece 4th Criminal Court of First Instance.
The next hearing of the lawsuit filed against journalist Hayri Demir on charges of terrorist organization membership and making propaganda for a terrorist organization on the grounds of his journalism activities in northern Syria will be held on September 28.
Ülkenin ifade özgürlüğü gündemini kayıt altına almak için biz haftaya da burada olacağız. Yeniden buluşmak dileğiyle. Hoşça kalın.